Happy Monday morning. I think for me, the highlight of this past weekend was I'm not a big soccer guy by any chance or football, but watching the Italy versus England match and seeing the banter go back and forth via text with two of our vendor reps from ICA, one who's from Italy, the other from England, both now residing in Canada, and the smack talk, if you will, going on between the two.
Yeah, it was as a person who did not have a dog in the fight, which sometimes I think it's more enjoyable to watch sporting events when your team is not in it, because without the emotional tie, you can truly just sit back and enjoy the game, the match, the whatever, without the anxiety that comes along. But yeah, it was fun watching the back and forth. Really, actually, mostly one directional. The gentleman from England was the one providing the commentary, and the gentleman from Italy was eerily silent until conveniently after the match was concluded and Italy had come out the victor, and then decided to chime in a little bit, which I thought was actually had a little bit more dramatic effect to it.
Yeah. So Andy, if you're watching, enjoy your back rubs from here on out from Darren. Sorry, Darren.
There's just not a lot right about that. But congratulations to Italy on the Euro Cup. Yeah, that was fun. I don't like watching matches that end on PKs.
Yeah, agreed.
Similar to Italy versus Spain in the semifinal. It's not only is it a little bit anticlimactic, although I say that, but I think PKs in and of themselves are exciting to watch. I just think after 120 plus minutes of all-out effort to end in a tie and have it come down to a PK, which some will argue with me, there's definitely skill on the approach of the shooter, but really when it comes down to the keeper, it's almost like 50-50. You're going to guess left or right, low or high, and hope that you've got a fighting chance. I don't like the way that's done. But at some point, you've got to end it, because after 120 plus minutes, the players, or the footballers, as they call them, are just completely gassed. And I don't see how they could really continue to go on.
I would imagine they've evaluated other ways of doing a sudden death or changing up the overtime or doing something to play it out more normally than a PK. But
I would think
clearly
so.
Nothing's won out.
I mean, the NFL has had 5,000 different ways of ending a game, none of which are really very good. But I would think that in the history of soccer, particularly European soccer, that they've probably had some various iterations. I don't know. I'm not a historian in that manner. But and then Saturday night, for those real soccer lovers, was the Copa America final between Argentina and Brazil. Messi versus Neymar. That was a fun match to watch. Argentina coming out on top. So yeah, a weekend full of soccer. Very American, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, these days, that's the big sport is soccer. That's what everyone's putting their kids in.
Well,
yes, and pickleball. For those who are 65 plus.
Right.
Yes. So anyway,
on that note, we'd like to welcome our guest for this episode. Miss Joelle Bondi from Henkel is in the house. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. Good
Welcome.
Morning, everyone.
Benvenuto.
We've known Joe for going on 12 years now.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Just crazy to think about.
Yeah,
So that would have made you about 12.
Yeah, that's right.
I was probably 15-ish.
Yeah,
Did you have an actual written work permit? Or were you like flying under the radar,
I was
like
flying
off payroll?
Under the radar.
Okay.
We just weren't
And
telling
Henkel
anybody.
being kind of corporate-like, I would think that they would have their paperwork in order.
Well,
but
back then things were a little different.
That's right. That's right. Back, in the early 2000s.
Yeah, back where people still like smoked in the office those days.
So, Joe, introduce our viewers to Joelle Bondi.
So I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, and really haven't ventured far from Detroit, Michigan.
Right.
And I grew up there, and I went to school there. I got a couple brothers, so it really prepared me for the Henkel world because I was always kind of surrounded by males. And in the chemical manufacturing world, that's roughly what you're dealing with, although things are changing these days.
Right.
But I played, basketball and volleyball. I was captain of all my teams, so
Nice.
I kind of always had a little bit of a leadership role, and I think that prepared me, for Henkel, going into Henkel, because I did start very young.
Did you play center in basketball?
Yeah, could you tell with my whole 5'1"?
Right.
I did play center in like 4th grade,
There you
but
go.
no, I was definitely a guard, that's for sure. And of course, for volleyball, I wasn't, the main spiker, but I had a mean serve. They called me Ace. So
Well, you remember that.
I can spike a ball. Watch out, guys. So then, I actually started going to, when I went to college, I was looking for a job that I could do both, do school in the evenings and then, have a nice paying job. So Henkel, I actually started kind of at the bottom of the rung. I started in customer service.
And you were doing that simultaneously while going to school?
Yes, by going to school. And actually, I started going for school for computer science. So Henkel was just, in my eyes at the time, wasn't going to be a career. However, 21 years later, here I still am.
Right.
So I did about 4 years in customer service. And while in customer service, one of the things I noticed Henkel needed was we didn't have like a tech service help desk. So like when people would call, customers would call and they needed help, we didn't really have anyone. And it was up to customer service to kind of try to figure it out. So after about 4 years, they opened a tech service role where basically we handled all the stuff online and over the phone, and I took that role, and it was just me. So I really got to learn a lot about Henkel because it wasn't just by industry. I had everything. I had aerospace, I had automotive. So that's how I really got more into the selling. I learned about the products on the tech service side. Mm-hmm. And then I'd say about 3 years later is when I met you guys. I actually moved into an inside sales role, and Henkel started looking at how do we service smaller customers. And that's where we met. At the time, you guys were Hit Solutions.
Right.
And that's where our relationship began. And I really wasn't even your guys' sales rep or anything. I was just support for you guys. And then as the years have grown on, I've taken more of a sales rep role, and I still do the tech service role. And then Henkel, of course, has gotten more involved with distributors, especially you guys, Accessa. Like in my eyes, you're like my number one distributor.
Oh,
So what I
You
hear
guys are
you
like my
saying,
favorite.
like,
thanks.
reading between the lines, you started off in a role that was just sort of, hey, this is going to provide me a paycheck while I'm focusing on school. It's kind of my main gig. And then opportunities developed within Henkel. We came along, we weren't really directly tied to you, but because we wouldn't stop calling you, other opportunities present themselves. So I'm seeing a correlation here. The fact that we wouldn't stop bugging you, that your star just continued to brighten.
Yes, I feel like we have just grown up together.
Oh, there you
Started
go.
out as babies, and now here we are as 21-year-olds.
Yeah, so we're
So
not
let's
we're
go
not all
celebrate.
grown up yet.
I'm actually
Do we
22.
ever?
I just want to get rid of the stigma of being 21.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I have a question going back. So you're from, we'll just call it the greater Detroit area,
Yes.
born and raised. All of our listeners and viewers are dying for me to ask, did you know Axel Foley?
No, I didn't know Axel Foley. I'm so sorry. Because I was like 0. No, I'm just joking.
That's true. I mean, I just a community leader that he was. I didn't know.
Yeah, up in Detroit, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
No, I've suffered through all of Detroit's ups and downs with all of our professional baseball, football, and Red Wings. So
Who's your team?
Well, the Wings have not had bad.
they weren't back at
times.
no, they weren't. But it's been a while. I mean,
I
they've
mean, the
been
Lions and the Tigers.
oh my, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
I mean, 1984 was a great year.
You're welcome for that setup.
I'll give you that. But I have never been a Detroit Lions fan. I know right now a lot of people in Detroit are probably cursing me.
Well, then who's your football team? Do you have one?
I kind of
Are you going to say the Bears?
no.
Okay.
No. So everyone's going to kill me when I say this, but I am a Green Bay fan.
Where's that come from?
I am an Aaron Rodgers fan.
Oh,
You know, I think, he's an
Everyone likes a
incredible
winner.
football. Yeah, he's an incredible football player. I mean, maybe not as a person, but as a football player, he's cool. And I am a Tom Brady fan. I am.
Oh, man.
But I'm a U of
Cut.
M fan. I'm a U of M fan.
You're in
I just got
Indianapolis.
kicked out. I just got kicked out.
I mean, Tom Brady is obviously done something right.
Yes, he has.
Right? But that doesn't mean as a Colts fan, we have to acknowledge that. We can still say he's the worst quarterback ever play. He sucks. No one likes him.
He knows how to
Tommy
split his
Tender
pants when he
pants.
swings a golf club.
Yeah, like.
Aaron Rodgers beat him in golf, by the way.
Yeah, I
Just
watched
thought I'd
it.
put that in there.
That's
So,
all right.
you know, I really, when it comes to football, I'm kind of like how you're talking about soccer. Since I don't really have a team, it is much more fun to watch because it's just you're watching great football. You know, you're just, if someone makes a great play, you can root for that team. So I do like that. Plus, I like to gamble on football, so I just like to watch every game because every game has something. You know, I'm rooting for somebody, I guess.
So do you have a
technically.
DraftKings account?
So we have a friend football pool. I guess I don't want to use the word Henkel because there's other Henkel people in it, but it's a lot of work people in it. So we do a lot of trash talking and
Cool.
we have a good time. So football's kind of my sport for the gambling end of it.
Good.
There you go.
So I'll try to root for you guys, but you're one of those teams that I can't count on. Sorry.
It's. I understand.
But
understand.
I come from Detroit, so you're better than us.
We just
remember
win.
That. Yeah, we just lose.
It's cool.
We just don't win enough to take the over on. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if it's a 50-50, I'm like, oh, they're going to lose it.
Well, I don't know. See, new era, the Carson era, Carson Wentz,
You keep telling yourself that.
and we'll see.
We'll see.
We got a good O-line. So I mean, God, even the 25th starting quarterback in the NFL can do well with a good offensive line.
You're starting to sound like a Detroit Lions fan where every year you think it's your year.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it was our year. I said it's Carson Wentz's rookie year.
Right.
So you got building years is what you're saying.
Yeah, the best is
Okay.
yet to come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, something tells me I'll still be talking to you in 5 years from now, so we'll see.
That's
We
fine.
hope so. So when you're not wagering on football, how would you describe your typical day, which I'm sure there is not such a typical.
There really isn't a typical day for my type of work. I realize some of maybe our outside field reps, it's a little bit more, week by week. You plan your thing week by week. For me, it's, what is the phone going to bring today? Mostly because of the sheer amount of customers I have. And also because those customers are usually, they usually have a higher turnover rate. So things aren't getting done correctly. Quality is a little bit lower expectation. So it's just a little bit more off the cuff. They don't always have what we would say is like a perfect line. So you kind of got to think outside the box a lot. So I never know. And it's always fun because you don't know. And I've been here 21 years and I learn something new every single day. And I don't know if everybody can say that with their job.
Yeah. I think part of that comes from also the various industries that we serve. It's not just automotive. There's 5 or 6 or more.
Yeah. Henkel serves anything metal. It doesn't make a difference. Aerospace, automotive, industrial, medical, military. We're touching everything.
Yep.
Now, I don't focus on the aerospace and automotive. However, we have jobbers and they're doing a little bit of everything. So you have to know those technologies, know those standards. But that's what makes it fun. You just never know what you're going to be dealing with. I've never really seen the same part over and over. It's always something different.
Yep.
And even if it's the same part, it's a different line. So it definitely keeps me on my toes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Point of definition for our listeners that are not from the industry. A jobber is, it can mean a handful of things, but in some ways it's a facility that doesn't manufacture anything. They may offer finishing services like powder coating. So those who are fabricating widgets of any sort out of some form of metal will outsource the powder coating to the job shop that will then use the Henkel products as part of their cleaning, surface treatment, chemical process that then goes into paint. Or there are those who do fabricate parts out of metal, but they don't make the same product over and over that they then sell. They are actually being contracted by someone else to create the die or whatever it may be to then stamp, broach, punch, cut, bend, form a piece of metal and go on from there. So There's your industrial definition of the day.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
So yes, most of my customers are doing that just because they're not, the big lines. Those are for our outside sales reps. So that mostly what I'm dealing with is the jobbers.
Yeah. Over the last 10 to 12 years, talk about some of the primary products that those jobbers, the customers that we typically deal with together, have been using.
So in 2013, Henkel rebranded, and we turned all of our surface treatment into our trade name Bondurite. So with that, anything that touches metal is going to be under the name Bondurite. And mostly these days, anything new starting up, we're looking at like trivalent chromes and our next generation technology over some of the heavy metals like your hexavalent chrome and your zinc phosphates. So right now, that's the trend I'm seeing, and I have been seeing over the last 10 years, but specifically the last about 4 years. I would say every new lead I get is a next generation lead. No one's looking at the iron phosphates. No one's looking at the zinc phosphates. They're looking at more environmentally friendly. So that's the trend, and that's what I'm seeing, and I don't see that changing. I mean, as this world goes on, that's what everyone's looking for. Less waste, less heavy metals. What can we do not to pollute the earth? So I mean, it's going to happen whether you want it to or not. And Henkel was aware of this 10 years ago, and they started working and formulating. So I feel like we got a really good line of Bondurite products that are also environmentally friendly compared to what's being used.
So can you, in let's say like a fifth grade vernacular, 30-second summary of when you say phosphates and things like that, or we discuss surface treatment chemicals, not chemically, what are they, but from a product standpoint, what are they and why are they used? Like, what do they do for the and I say fifth grade, it's like the consumer who has completely out of the industry will understand why we do what we do.
So when we talk about conversion coatings specifically, it is meant to go on metal to stop corrosion and also for better paint adhesion. So when we talk about surface treatment, that's really more or less what we're talking about, so that you don't get any rust, you don't get oxidation, and more importantly, your paint sticks. Because you can just paint a part and the paint will stick for a certain amount of time, but eventually that paint's going to come off. And of course, if you buy any furniture or refrigerators or anything, you don't want paint coming off. So the surface treatment, it's not only giving you that rust protection, but it's keeping that adhesion for you so that your product will last longer. Now, of course, we also have cleaning and deoxidizing. And those are, cleaning is exactly what we're saying it's doing. It's going to clean the metal. Deoxidizing is going to remove any oxidation, any rust, anything that's on there that can't be removed with a cleaner. And then you would go through your surface treatment. So anything you touch metal, cars, cabinets, all that has gone through some kind of surface treatment before it was painted.
Mm-hmm. Right. So for the consumer, think about if you had a car in the 60s and it got a ding in it, it immediately started rusting out. Today, completely different story. Same with school lockers, metal furniture for your home, office, industrial uses, things like that, appliances or other durable goods. What Joelle is saying is the paint that you see, obviously there's an aesthetic purpose of the paint, to give it color, to give it design, and appeal to the eye. But also that paint is there to protect the part itself. And then under that paint, that conversion coating, that surface treatment chemical, and the whole process not only promoted adhesion of the paint, so it can give you that outer layer of protection, but also should that paint get dinged and come off, you ding your car, you're in the grocery or the mall parking lot, and that such and such person who parks way too close to you and then slams their door into your car and it takes paint off, that metal underneath that is now exposed is really, unless it's just been completely crushed, is actually not metal anymore. It's not the original surface, correct?
Correct. Our surface treatments become part of the metal. It's not laying on top of it. It's becoming part of the metal. So it becomes like the barrier. It becomes part of it.
So the true chemical reaction process where the surface of the metal gets sealed off.
Yes.
So it's not exposed to air and moisture, which then ultimately creates oxidation, or in other words, rust.
Right. And it gives you protection. Now, will it give you protection for 30 years after all the paint's come off? Well, maybe hexavalent chrome. But you will, it's there to get you through. So your car, unless you keep your car for 30, 40 years with a scratch on it, not repainted over, that might cause an issue. But in general, it'll give you time to get
Right.
it repaired.
So just one of the myriad of ways our dirty industry of manufacturing and all of that, and it relates to real world application and how the consumer can draw a parallel.
Yes. And I don't know how into cars you guys are. Coming from Detroit, that's really all we talk about up there. But one of our big things is like the
Which is why your guys' roads are so nice.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, that's because of the snow that you guys don't get. Remember that?
Right.
Remember that? The F-150, I mean, that was a really big push for our next generation, was to show that here's this heavy duty truck that, people are buying, taking it off-roading, throwing heavy equipment into it, scratching it up. Well, they're using our next generation technology. They've gotten away from zinc phosphates. They went away from the heavy metals. It's more of an aluminum truck. And they went ahead with our next generation. And I mean, it's been out on the road for years. So, I mean, if you can take these construction trucks and you can bang them up and they're still going, that's a really good sign. That's the proof you need. It's right there.
So talk to us about these next gen. You've used that term multiple times now. Give us a couple examples of those products.
So most of them are going to be like a fluorozirconic acid based. We got some titanium based, and we have some polymer based. So basically getting away from those heavy metals, getting away from zinc phosphate, getting away from hexavalent chrome. We do have some trivalent chromes. So of course, I mean, they're still chrome. It's just not as bad as chrome 6. So I think the big thing out there is people think when you hear next generation and you hear environmentally friendly, they think that it's not as good. And that is not the case. Again, going back, I mean, we're showing it with the F-150. It can be out there. It can get banged up. It's not going to outperform a hexavalent chrome. It's not going to outperform a zinc phosphate, but it's going to get just as good as results as a zinc phosphate. It's going to outperform an iron phosphate. You're going to save on wastewater. You're going to save on your waste in general. You're going to save on heat. You're going to save on energy. There's so many benefits.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you to describe the benefits of these next gen, and you just touched on it. So it's the energy savings in terms of the manufacturing process, and of course the downstream waste, which is huge.
Yes. The energy savings is amazing because most of these just run ambient, and you figure with a zinc phosphate, you're running about 120, 130. So you're going to save on that heat, and that's amazing, the amount of money. I mean, I've seen us save customers $50,000 just on heat alone.
So expanding on that, when you say saving on the heat and running ambient versus 120, 130, you're saying that, so for those, again, I'm trying to break this down. A lot of these applications are either spray or immersion. So imagine for our listeners, imagine a car door, just a bare door hanging on a hook going down a assembly line, and it goes into a spray washer, which means it's going to go into this tunnel, and it's kind of going into the car wash. All the jets of water on the side that are fixed, for the most part, are spraying on this part, and that water, which is held in with the cleaner or the surface treatment chemical, is in a tank somewhere being heated by a gas furnace like your water heater at home to that 120 to 130 degrees in order for the product to work in its to its best of its ability, let's say. Or if it's a dip tank, it's now this car door is going down. It's actually going down into a bathtub, if you will, of water, a tank of water, and then coming back up and moving on to the next stage. And that water, that tank, is being heated to 120, 130 degrees. If you're saying some of these next gen materials, one of the nice aspects about it is that the water itself, we're gonna say that the chemical is like the Calgon bath, whatever it was back in the 80s. The Calgon Take Me Away.
Oh, you're dating yourself.
I know. Well, sometimes I watch old TV. I wasn't actually watching it live. These are reruns. Most kids are like, what's a rerun? Maybe you can find it on Netflix somewhere or YouTube. I don't know. But you're adding the chemical to a greater bath solution to dilute it down, and running ambient means you don't have to heat that water.
Yes.
So you're not running your water heater. Imagine being able to be at home and take a ambient temperature shower and it not like be freezing and actually get you clean. Think of the savings dollar-wise, you mentioned, but also obviously saving on energy is huge environmentally speaking.
Yes. Equipment too. I mean, you don't have to have the heater.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're putting in a new line, obviously, if you have an old line. Another thing is you can usually cut down stages. Like a zinc phosphate there's usually a conditioner stage beforehand, and you do have to have that heated. So you can eliminate a conditioner stage. So you can eliminate a whole stage, and you don't always need a sealer. Most zinc phosphate lines have a sealer. So you can go from a 9 stage to a 5 stage or a 4 stage. I mean, you can really cut down, and that will also cut down your water usage, your energy.
The material costs. I mean, obviously, you have less equipment in place, less infrastructure, operating costs from a capital expense and maintenance standpoint. And obviously, your material cost is lower because you're buying less materials. But gosh, your throughput, if you can cut from a 9 or 7 down to a 5 or a 4, your throughput just goes up dramatically because of less time in process.
Yes.
And in today's world, with the manufacturing economy booming, throughput is everything right now.
Yep. Time is of the essence.
That's true.
Yeah. I know years ago it was hard convincing people to look at a next generation. But there's just so much out there. I mean, even the military is approving next generations. They've done all the tests. It's sat out, in the field for 2 years before they would even take a look at it to see if it would pass or not. So everybody's coming around. The automotive industry, the military industry, definitely the aerospace. They were one of the first ones. They have sunset dates on all these chromes. So whether you want to or not, you're going to be forced to these next generations from higher above.
And that trickle-down effect has already started.
Yes.
I mean, the Ford plant may have started it, but
GM's
even customers
doing it
at our level,
yep.
whether because of certain municipalities where they reside or are forcing them to, we're getting more and more phone calls now, too, from the smaller guys saying, hey, what's out there?
Yeah, because definitely on your waste treatment, it makes a huge difference. And I'm not going to say you can dump our stuff down the drain. I'm never going to tell you that. Right. You definitely want to test, but you don't have the sludge buildup. You don't have to have a waste treatment company come out and take, tons of sludge out on a yearly basis. Yes, it can build up sludge, but nothing like a zinc phosphate, nothing at all. So even your downtime for a clean out is just you don't even really have to take a full day.
So what's the number one barrier to getting for someone to change? Why do people say no? When everything sounds so good, what prevents them from just going
for it? A lot of it is just a mentality of a next generation can't be as good as a zinc phosphate. Well, let me show you. Let's just run some parts and we can throw it through and I can show you it can pass just as well as a zinc phosphate. And if you're using iron phosphate, I will blow that iron phosphate out of the water every time. Get away from iron phosphate. I'm going to be honest. I'm not an iron phosphate fan. Every time I talk to a customer of mine and they're iron phosphate, I start bringing up the next generation. You're just going to get better results, especially if you're running aluminum. And nowadays, everyone's going to light metals.
Yeah.
So jump on now, get your stuff, get your line up and running so that you're out there and you can go to these companies and say, yeah, I got a next generation.
And if they say, well, it's probably more expensive than what I'm using now. And in a lot of cases, yeah, but it's not crazy more. Do you talk to them about the cost benefit analysis there?
You almost have to because yes, the chemical itself is going to be more than an iron phosphate. I'm not going to lie there. The product itself, but you're not going to have to. You're going to save everywhere else. And yes, you have to sit down and make the customer see that. And that's a little bit of work on the customer's end because they have to give you data. Sure. What are you paying? What do you pay for your energy? What do you pay for your water? Right. How often do you dump? When you do dump and you have to do a clean out, how long do you have to be down to do that clean out? So every customer is a little different, but you got to get that information from them to be able to show them what they're saving because that's really what you're going to show them. You're going to show them an energy savings and a cost savings. I'm not going to show you chemical savings because it is more expensive. I'm not going to lie, but we'll save you money everywhere else. And then you get the tote that you're more environmentally friendly.
It's just the true adage of price versus cost.
Yes.
I mean, our customer base, they're all smart business people. They understand it, but sometimes when they see a number on paper, emotionally, they get so tied to the price that they blind themselves to the true cost. And if you can say, okay, well, my price gap is X, but you're going to save Y, Z, A, B, C, D, the cost per unit, per part, however you want to measure it, generally is going to be break even, if not less than what their current cost is.
Correct. And you just sometimes have to show it to them.
Yeah. Yep.
because, and I will say, I don't know of one instance where we did like an energy savings for a customer that we were off. They never came back and said, we didn't save the money you said we were going to. It's true. We will save you money on your energy and your water. And, safety, I would assume. I mean, you don't have to, you're not dealing with heavy metals. So, right. Depending on certain people's health, they can't be around, certain metals at certain times of their life. So you can take that out of the equation.
Right. Well, that makes me want to run out, buy a new Ford F-150, the electric version. I want to buy the new electric one. Look pretty cool.
The one that can power your house with a generator. I'm very excited about that.
For all the earthquakes that get in Detroit.
I lose power a lot in Detroit.
Due
to storms, yeah. It's really the storms because we just have so many trees and they just come barreling down and they take it. I mean, just last week we didn't have power for 2 days, so it happens. Oof. I lose power anytime it gets hot. So
naturally, right?
Yeah. So yeah, give me that truck.
All right.
There you go.
Probably make that happen.
Okay, so you started at Henkel when you were maybe 10 or 11 years old.
Yes, that's correct.
And I understand. Is it a family affair? How did you why Henkel?
Oh, so you got me. So yes, my uncle did work there and still works there actually. And he had made the suggestion. He knew I was looking for something and he thought, customer service. He's like, you don't have to have a chemistry degree to be in customer service as I was still in college. So, I didn't, just so you know, I didn't get the job first. They offered it to somebody else.
Oh boy.
So there wasn't that much nepotism. Hey. But they came back and I will say, I don't think there's anything horribly wrong with nepotism because at least the person's work ethic. I don't think I've gotten past customer service because of him. I think that's been my own work ethic. I think the jobs I've gotten, I try not to tell people my uncle works
Probably
there.
In spite of him, really.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't want people to know I'm his niece. Maybe they don't like him. So, and he is in the automotive industry. So, he does work in the automotive industry and now I've separated. I think I left the automotive group in 2015. Okay. So it's been a couple years. But I will say, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think everyone, if you know someone, get them a job, it'll probably pay off, instead of taking a stranger, you never know what you're getting. So I guess they like me. I mean, it's been 21 years. I could be wrong. It just might take a long time to get rid of.
Well, I heard your file there is pretty thick. Personnel file.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, lots of write-ups.
I'm sure it is.
All right, so 21 years. What started off as hey, just give me some spending money, help me cover some bills, has turned into a career. Best part of your job?
Ooh. Well, if you would have asked me before the pandemic, I would have said my coworkers because it really has become like a family there. I'm not sure if everyone feels that way, but I think if you stay there a couple of years, you start to feel that way. Like you truly look out for each other. Now that the pandemic hit, I mean, I still talk to people, but I will just say it's still camaraderie. I mean, I still like talking to people, even my customers. Like you just really, after 21 years, you start to know people. Mm-hmm. And I really do, honestly, in my heart, feel our Bondurate pre-treatment is the best pre-treatment out there. I'm not just saying that because it's a paycheck. If I felt that way, I don't think I'd be here 21 years. But I really do. I stand behind our Bondurate products.
So from a pandemic standpoint, are you going into the office at all? Or are you still 100%?
So I went into the office last week for a day.
For the first time.
So really, we are welcome back. If we want to come back, we are welcome back. There are guidelines, of course, but come Labor Day, they expect Henkel to be back up and running in Madison Heights. I imagine in Michigan, there's other facilities in different states that are a little bit more open, but being in Michigan, we're kind of taking it slow. So right now it's mostly our lab people, our PD, our analytical and accelerated testing, and our tech service is pretty much what's in the office. And most of us sales reps are at home. Now I'm kind of a dual. I'm tech service and sales. So luckily my PD team really likes me and they help me out so I don't have to go into the lab. I don't know how long that'll last, but for right now it's working.
Is that Andrew?
He's my tech service.
What's up, Andrew?
Shout out to Dave Montrose and Walter Updike. You guys make my job fun. Thank you for helping me all the time.
We'll make sure we forward him a link. So
please do. Yeah, because this will get me far. So next time you guys need a project, we'll just play this link and we're good.
There we go. I like it. Yes, Walter, Dave, bring it.
But speaking of PD, that is one thing I think Henkel does very well. Our PD is getting up there a little bit in age and we're hiring younger people, but I think our PD department, product development, for all you guys who don't know what PD is, has done really well with these next generations. I mean, it's been a learning curve. I'm not going to lie. When it first came out, there was water quality issues and we jumped and reformulated so that we could deal with different types of water. So I know that's another thing out there people are always worried about is the water quality, because the first couple years that the next generation was out, water quality was an issue, but we have found ways around it. We've reformulated, we've got other products. So I think we got something for everybody.
Cool.
We would agree.
Definitely. Well, I mean, Henkel's obviously, when you look at the quality spectrum of products, Henkel's always been at the top.
Yes.
And there's no doubt that there's, from a performance standpoint, it's there. And from a support standpoint, when there are issues, because there are going to be issues, not necessarily directly related to product, but the application.
Yes.
There are issues, and the support's got to be there as well. So I know from our end, we've always known that when we call, that we're going to be taken care of. So we appreciate that very much.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad that we've met all your guys' needs.
Yeah, you can pay me $20 after we're done taping.
$20, boy, you're pretty cheap.
Thank you. All right, so question for us. Any questions for us?
Well, my question for you guys is, what are you guys seeing after the pandemic? Are you seeing, I feel like we all feel like things are starting to get back to normal, but are they? How are your customers coming out of this?
I would say over the last several months, it's been very busy. Demand's incredibly high across the board. I can't think of any sector that any part of Assessa touches that is, I would say, is down right now. Everyone seems to be.
Is it just buying, or do you see, like, because people were down, are you having issues, like, just getting things back up and running, getting everyone back in that?
I think the main thrust, economically speaking, in our world is consumer demand, which has just created this backlog of product across so many different industries and product spaces, which has been great from that standpoint. The one thing on the chemical side, in particular, for anyone in metal fab and that side of manufacturing, we are still seeing it being difficult to visit, where there are a lot. You used to be able to go in the back door. Now it's either you can't come in still at a handful of places. And some of it's pandemic related. Some of it's quite frankly, they're so busy, they don't want to be interrupted.
Yep.
Or if you want to come in, you have to have an appointment. And then the only way to get an appointment is, hey, we don't want you to come in here and talk about something to sell us. We want you in here because we have a need for you and we created the appointment. So from a sales standpoint, it's been challenging on that side to kind of get back to where you've got better access to the decision makers to talk about your products, whether it be an existing customer or a prospective customer. So that's the challenge. It takes some getting creative, but I think over continued time, particularly probably the remainder of this year anyway, I think we'll slowly start to see things loosen back up.
So most of what you're seeing is organic growth. You're not seeing much new just because people aren't letting new people in.
Right.
That's the challenge. That's the real challenge. Or that, or they're so busy that even if your product or your solution is better,
they don't have time for testing.
They're saying, hey, I'm too afraid to move anything around, make a change, because if anything that even slightly interrupts my throughput would be a deal killer. So
yeah, I never thought about that. You're right. They don't have time to shut down to do a trial, to test somebody else's product out.
Yeah.
So the key would be is if they're putting a new line in.
Yes.
But existing is difficult right now.
Yes, I would imagine.
But we'll keep plugging.
Now you got your next generation and your energy savings. Go get them, Tiger.
Exactly.
Yeah, hop 'em on.
Or Colt or whatever I'm supposed to call you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Well, Joe, thanks for coming in. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your partnership.
Oh, I love working with you guys. Anyone out there looking for Bondurite, give Assessa a call.
Nice. Thank you. I'll give you that $20 bill back.
Yeah, now we're even.
Yeah, we're even. All right. I like it.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Industrious Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification bell.
Bing, bing.
and be industrious. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.